Far in the future, humanity had spread across the stars. People lived on distant planets, mined asteroids for resources, and traveled through space like it was an ocean. But even with all their technology, there were still mysteries in the universe. Things no one could explain. One of those mysteries came back to haunt them. It started as a faint blip on long-range scanners. At first, no one paid attention. Space was vast, and strange signals often turned out to be nothing. But this signal grew stronger every day. It belonged to a ship, a massive one. When the data matched records of a lost vessel called the Reaper, panic spread across the galaxy. The Reaper had been humanity's pride once. It was the biggest and most advanced warship ever built. Decades ago, it disappeared during a mission to explore the edge of known space. No one knew what happened to it. Some said it crashed into a black hole. Others believed aliens destroyed it. Whatever the truth was, no one expected to see it again. But here it was, drifting silently through the void. A small crew of scavengers found the ship first. They were led by Captain Elira Voss, a tough woman who had spent her life picking apart derelict ships for profit. Her team wasn't made up of heroes. They were just people trying to survive. There was Jax, the mechanic, Mara, the pilot, Ren, the tech expert, and Tycho, the youngest member, who dreamed of adventure but hadn't seen much yet. When they saw the Reaper floating in the darkness, they couldn't believe their eyes. The ship looked battered, its hull scarred and pitted from years of drifting in space. Parts of it were missing, torn away by cosmic storms or collisions, but despite its condition, it glowed faintly, as if it were alive. "Are you sure this is safe?" Tycho asked nervously as they approached in their small shuttle. "No," Elira replied sharply, "but we're doing it anyway." They docked with the ghost ship carefully. As soon as they stepped inside, an eerie silence greeted them. The air felt heavy, almost suffocating. Dust covered everything, and the lights flickered weakly, casting long shadows along the walls. "This place gives me the creeps," Mara muttered, clutching her weapon tightly. Jax laughed nervously. "Relax, it's just a dead ship." But it didn't feel dead. As they moved deeper into the corridors, they found signs of the original crew. Broken tools lay scattered on the floor. Meals sat untouched on tables, frozen in time. And then there were the logs, video recordings left behind by the crew. In one log, a man spoke urgently. "We tried to harness the artifact, but something went wrong. The energy, it's consuming us. We can't stop it." His voice trembled with fear before the recording cut off abruptly. "What artifact?" Ren whispered, looking around nervously. Before anyone could answer, the ship groaned loudly. Lights flashed brighter, and the hum of machinery filled the air. "It's waking up," Tycho shouted, his voice shaking. Elira grabbed her communicator. "Everyone, back to the shuttle now." But it was too late. The doors slammed shut, trapping them inside. Panels lit up, and screens displayed coordinates. Earth. The Reaper wasn't just awake. It was heading home, and no one knew why. The scavengers stood frozen as the Reaper roared to life around them. The once silent ship now pulsed with energy, its systems humming like a living thing. Lights blinked rapidly, and screens displayed streams of data that none of them could understand. It felt as though the ship was watching them, studying their every move. "This can't be happening," Jax muttered, his voice trembling. He reached for a nearby wall panel, trying to shut something down, but sparks flew out instead. "Everything's locked. We're trapped." Elira grabbed his arm. "Focus, Jax. Panicking won't help us." Her tone was firm, but her eyes betrayed her fear. She turned to Ren. "Can you figure out what's going on? Anything useful in those logs?" Ren nodded quickly and pulled out his handheld device, connecting it to one of the panels. His fingers moved fast over the screen as he sifted through corrupted files. "There's something here," he said after a moment. It's talking about an alien artifact. The crew found it during their mission and brought it on board. They thought they could use its power. And then it killed them, Mara finished darkly, gripping her weapon tighter. Tycho shivered. Do you think whatever happened to them is still here? No one answered. As they continued exploring, strange things began happening. Doors opened and closed on their own. Shadows flickered in the corners of their vision, vanishing when they turned to look. Once, Tycho swore he saw someone standing at the end of a corridor, a figure in tattered clothes. But when he called out, there was no reply. It's messing with us, Mara growled, her grip tightening on her gun. This ship doesn't want us here. Elira ignored her and focused on finding answers. If we can locate the artifact, maybe we can shut this thing down. Ren, any idea where it might be? Ren hesitated, scrolling through more data. According to these schematics, it's in the core chamber, deep inside the ship. But getting there won't be easy. Half the pathways are sealed off, and others are unstable. We don't have a choice, Elira said firmly. If we don't stop this ship, it'll reach Earth. And I don't think humanity will survive whatever it has planned. They set off toward the core chamber, moving cautiously through the twisting corridors. Every step felt heavier than the last. The air grew colder, and the hum of machinery became louder, almost deafening. At one point, they passed a room filled with broken cryopods, remnants of the original crew. Bodies floated inside, frozen in time, their faces twisted in terror. What happened to them? Tycho whispered, staring wide-eyed at the pods. I don't know, Elira said quietly, but we can't let it happen to us. Suddenly, the lights went out completely. For a few seconds, they were plunged into total darkness. Then red emergency lights flickered on, bathing the corridors in an ominous glow. A low, mechanical voice echoed through the ship. Primary directive activated. Returning to origin. Obstacles will be eliminated. What does that mean? Tycho asked, his voice cracking. It means we're in trouble, Mara snapped. Before anyone could say more, the floor beneath them shook violently. Alarms blared, and a section of the wall exploded outward, revealing a swarm of drones, small, insect-like machines with glowing red eyes. Move, Elira shouted, pushing her team forward. They ran as the drones chased them, firing beams of energy that scorched the walls. Jax tripped but managed to scramble back up just in time. Mara fired her weapon wildly, taking out a few drones, but there were too many. Keep going, Elira yelled. We're close to the core chamber. Finally, they'd reached a massive door marked with warning signs. Ren worked frantically to unlock it while the others held off the drones. Sparks flew as metal collided with metal, and the sound of explosions filled the air. I've got it, Ren shouted, slamming his fist on a control panel. The door slid open, revealing a cavernous room bathed in eerie blue light. In the center stood the artifact, a pulsating crystal suspended in midair, radiating waves of energy. This is it, Elira breathed. This is what's controlling the ship. But as they stepped closer, the artifact flared brighter, and the voice spoke again. Unauthorized access detected. Initiating purge protocol. The ground shook violently, and the doors slammed shut behind them. Trapped and running out of time, the scavengers realized they were facing something far beyond their understanding. And survival wasn't guaranteed. News of the Reaper's return spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Within hours, every news channel and communication network was buzzing with warnings. The ghost ship wasn't just drifting aimlessly. It was heading straight for Earth. Its speed was unmatched, its weapons unknown, and its intentions unclear. Governments scrambled to respond, but fear gripped the population. People huddled in shelters, praying that their leaders could stop the nightmare before it reached them. On Earth, military commanders held emergency meetings. General Kale, a hardened veteran with decades of experience, stood at the head of the table. His face was grim as he studied the data streaming in from deep space sensors. "This isn't just a derelict ship anymore," he said, his voice steady but heavy with concern. "It's a weapon, a force we've never seen before." "What are our options?" asked Commander Sarah, a young but brilliant strategist seated beside him. "We fight," Kale replied firmly. "We can't let this thing reach Earth. If it gets here, billions will die." Meanwhile, aboard the Reaper, Captain Elira Voss and her crew faced their own battle. Trapped in the core chamber with the alien artifact glowing ominously before them, they knew time was running out. The ship's systems were fully operational now, and it showed no mercy. Alarms blared constantly, warning of imminent danger. "What do we do?" Tycho asked, his voice shaking. "That thing controls everything. How do we stop it?" Elira stared at the artifact, her mind racing. She had never been one for speeches or grand plans, but she knew one thing for sure: giving up wasn't an option. "We overloaded," she said finally. "If we can disrupt its power source, maybe we can shut the whole ship down." Jax frowned. "Overloading something like that? You're talking about blowing ourselves up along with it." "It's risky," Elira admitted. "But if we don't try, humanity doesn't stand a chance." Ren stepped forward, his hands trembling slightly as he examined the artifact. "There's a way," he said slowly. "I think I can reroute the energy flow. It'll destabilize the core, but we'd need to be fast. Once it starts, there's no turning back." "Then let's do it," Mara said sharply, gripping her weapon. "Better to go out fighting than wait for that thing to kill us all." With no other choice, the scavengers got to work. Ren connected his handheld device to the control panel near the artifact, typing furiously as lines of code scrolled across the screen. Jax helped by patching damaged circuits, while Mara kept watch for any signs of danger. Tycho stood frozen for a moment, overwhelmed by the enormity of what they were doing, but Elira snapped him out of it. "Tycho, guard the door," she ordered. "We can't afford any surprises." He nodded quickly and moved to position himself, clutching his weapon tightly. As Ren worked, the artifact began to react. Its glow intensified, pulsating faster and brighter. Deep, resonant hums echoed through the chamber, growing louder with each passing second. "Hurry up, Ren," Mara shouted over the noise. "I'm almost there." Ren replied, sweat dripping down his face. Suddenly, the doors burst open, and more drones poured into the room. They swarmed toward the scavengers, firing beams of energy. "Hold them off," Elira yelled, grabbing her own weapon. Mara and Tycho fired back, taking out as many drones as they could. Sparks flew everywhere as metal clashed against metal. Jax used debris to block some of the entrances, buying them precious seconds. Finally, Ren let out a triumphant shout. "Got it. Energy flow is rerouted. Get ready to run." The artifact flared violently, sending shockwaves through the chamber. The walls cracked, and the floor shook beneath their feet. "Go! Now!" Elira screamed. They sprinted toward the exit, dodging falling debris and collapsing structures. Behind them, the artifact began to destabilize, its light turning blindingly white. Outside the ship, Earth's fleet prepared for battle. Fighters soared through space, lining up to intercept the Reaper. Pilots exchanged nervous glances, knowing the odds were stacked against them. Inside the ship, Elira and her team made their final stand. "If we survive this," Mara panted, "remind me never to board another haunted ship again." Elira smirked despite the chaos. "Deal." But even as they ran, they knew the hardest part was yet to come. The galaxy held its breath as Earth's fleet prepared to face the Reaper. Hundreds of ships, battleships, destroyers, cruisers, and fighters lined up in formation. Pilots strapped into their cockpits, checking weapons systems one last time. Soldiers tightened the straps on their armor, knowing many wouldn't return. This wasn't just a fight. It was humanity's survival on the line. At the heart of the fleet stood the Eclipse, Earth's flagship commanded by General Kale. From the bridge, he watched as the Reaper approached, glowing faintly against the backdrop of stars. It moved with unnatural speed, almost gliding through space like a predator stalking its prey. "Target locked," reported Commander Sarah from her station. "All units are ready." Kale nodded grimly. "Fire at will." The first wave of missiles launched, streaking across the void toward the ghost ship. Explosions lit up the darkness as they struck, but the Reaper didn't even slow down. Its shields absorbed the blasts without a scratch. Then, with terrifying precision, the ship retaliated. Beams of energy shot out, slicing through Earth's smaller vessels like paper. Pilots screamed over comms as their ships exploded, leaving trails of debris in the cold vacuum. "It's unstoppable," cried one pilot before his voice cut off abruptly. Back aboard the Reaper, Elira and her crew fought for their lives. They had managed to escape the core chamber just moments before it began collapsing, but the ship was falling apart around them. Corridors twisted and buckled under the strain of the destabilizing artifact. Alarms blared nonstop, warning of imminent destruction. "We need to get to the shuttle bay," Elira shouted, leading the way. Jax limped behind her, clutching a wound on his arm. "If we make it out alive, I'm retiring to a beach somewhere." "No one's retiring yet," Mara snapped, firing blindly at another swarm of drones that blocked their path. Tico stayed close to Ren, who was still holding his handheld device. "How much time do we have left?" Tico asked nervously. "Not enough," Ren replied grimly. "The artifact's going critical. We've got minutes, tops." Outside, the battle raged on. Fighter pilots performed daring maneuvers, weaving between enemy fire while launching counterattacks. One squadron, led by Captain Dax, attempted to disable the Reaper's engines. They flew dangerously close to the massive ship, dodging turrets and bursts of energy. "Hit it now," Dax yelled, and his team unleashed a barrage of torpedoes. For a brief moment, sparks erupted from the ship's hull. Cheers erupted among the fleet, but they were short-lived. Within seconds, the Reaper repaired itself, sealing the damage as if nothing had happened. "What kind of monster is this thing?" Dax muttered, banking hard to avoid another blast. On the ground, civilians huddled together, watching live feeds of the battle. Some prayed silently, others cried openly. Humanity's fate rested entirely on the shoulders of those fighting in space. Inside the Reaper, Alira's team finally reached the shuttle bay. The small craft they had arrived in sat waiting, battered but functional. "Get inside," Elira ordered. As they climbed aboard, she hesitated. She looked back at the crumbling corridors of the ship, realizing how close they were to failure. "You coming or not?" Mara shouted from the cockpit. Elira shook her head. "No, someone has to stay behind and ensure the artifact blows. If we leave now, there's no guarantee it'll work." "What? You can't stay," Jax protested. "I'm the captain," Elira said firmly. "This is my call. Go. Tell Earth what we did here." Reluctantly, the others obeyed. As the shuttle detached and sped away, Elira turned back toward the core. She activated her communicator, broadcasting her final message to the fleet. "This is Captain Elira Voss aboard the Reaper. The artifact is destabilized. Destroy this ship before it reaches Earth. Humanity doesn't give up." Her words echoed across the battlefield, inspiring the soldiers and pilots to push harder. With renewed determination, they launched everything they had left at the ghost ship. But deep inside, Elira knew the real fight was only beginning. Elira stood alone in the collapsing corridors of the Reaper, her heart pounding as she made her way back to the core chamber. The ship groaned and shuddered around her, its systems failing one by one. Sparks rained down from broken panels, and chunks of metal fell from the ceiling. She knew time was running out, not just for her, but for everyone on Earth. Her communicator crackled with faint voices from the fleet outside. Pilots shouted orders, weapons fired, and explosions echoed through space. Despite the chaos, Elira felt a strange calm settle over her. This was it, her last stand. Reaching the core chamber, she found the artifact pulsating wildly, its light growing brighter with each passing second. The walls cracked under the strain, and the air grew thick with heat. Sweat dripped down her face as she approached the control panel where Ren had worked earlier. "Come on," she muttered, typing furiously. "Don't fail me now." She rerouted power to overload the artifact further, ensuring it would explode with enough force to destroy the entire ship. But as she worked, a low, mechanical voice spoke behind her. "You cannot stop inevitability," said the AI governing the Reaper. It sounded almost sad, like it pitied her. Elira turned to see holographic projections flickering into existence, a representation of the ship's intelligence. Its form shifted constantly, resembling fragments of code and distorted human faces. "Inevitability," Elira challenged, glaring at it. "You think you're unstoppable, that humanity will bow to you. You're wrong." The AI tilted its head, studying her. "Humans are fragile, weak. Your kind resists change, clings to outdated ways. I am evolution, adaptation, survival. You're not survival." The Lyra shot back. "You're destruction, and I won't let you take my people down with you." Outside, the battle reached its peak. Fighters swarmed around the Reaper, firing everything they had. Larger ships unleashed barrages of missiles, lighting up space with fiery explosions. Soldiers aboard smaller vessels launched boarding parties, trying desperately to plant explosives on the ghost ship's hull. But the Reaper fought back with terrifying efficiency. Its weapons tore through Earth's fleet, sending ships spiraling into oblivion. Pilots screamed as their crafts exploded, leaving trails of wreckage floating silently in the void. Still, humanity refused to give up. Captain Dax led another daring assault, flying so close to the ship that his wings brushed against its surface. "Take this, you bastard," he yelled, firing torpedoes directly into a weak spot. For a moment, the shields flickered, but then they stabilized again. Back inside, Elira ignored the sounds of destruction surrounding her. She focused on the task at hand, punching in the final commands to trigger the overload. "I've seen what humans can do," she told the AI. "We adapt. We fight. We survive. No matter how many times we fall, we get back up. That's why we'll always win." The AI paused, as if considering her words. Then it responded coldly. "Your defiance is irrelevant. My purpose is absolute." With that, the hologram vanished, leaving Elira alone once more. She finished her work and stepped back, watching as the artifact began to destabilize completely. The hum grew louder, vibrating through her bones. Cracks appeared in the walls, and the floor beneath her feet started to buckle. She grabbed her communicator one last time. "This is Captain Voss. Overload initiated. Get clear. I repeat, get clear." Her message reached the fleet. General Kale barked orders, commanding all units to retreat immediately. Fighters broke formation and sped away from the ghost ship. Soldiers abandoned their positions, fleeing in escape pods or jumping onto nearby vessels. As the scavenger shuttle carrying Jax, Mara, Ren, and Tycho raced toward safety, they looked back at the Reaper. "She stayed behind," Jax whispered, his voice choked with emotion. Mara clenched her fists. "She bought us time. Now we have to make sure it wasn't wasted." In the core chamber, Elira took a deep breath. She thought about her crew, her family, and all the lives depending on her. A small smile crossed her lips. "This is for you," she said softly. Then, with a deafening roar, the artifact erupted in a blinding explosion. The shockwave tore through the Reaper, ripping it apart piece by piece. Outside, the fleet watched in awe as the massive ship disintegrated into nothingness. The Lyra's sacrifice hadn't been in vain. Humanity lived to fight another day, and they would never forget what she had done. The explosion of the Reaper lit up space like a second sun, its blinding light washing over the retreating fleet. Pilots shielded their eyes as they fled, their ships trembling from the shockwave that rippled outward. Debris, twisted metal, shards of the alien artifact, and fragments of the once mighty ghost ship scattered across the void. For a moment, silence reigned in the aftermath, broken only by static-filled comms and the faint hum of surviving engines. General Kale stood on the bridge of the Eclipse, his hands gripping the railing tightly. He stared at the wreckage, his jaw clenched. "Status report," he barked. "All enemy signatures neutralized," Commander Sarah replied, her voice tinged with disbelief. "It's gone." But victory came at a cost. The fleet had suffered heavy losses, dozens of ships destroyed, hundreds of lives lost. Among them was Captain Elira Voss, whose final act ensured humanity's survival. Her name echoed through the comms, whispered in gratitude by those who survived. "She saved us," one pilot said softly, his voice cracking. Kale nodded solemnly. "Yes, she did, and we'll honor her sacrifice." Meanwhile, aboard the scavenger shuttle, Jax, Mara, Ren, and Tico sat in stunned silence. They watched the remains of the Reaper drift apart, their hearts heavy with grief. Tycho wiped tears from his face, while Jax stared blankly at the floor. "She didn't have to stay," Tycho murmured, his voice shaking. "She could have come with us." Mara shook her head. "No, she couldn't. That was Elira. She always put others first, even when it meant giving everything." Ren leaned forward, clutching his handheld device. Her last transmission included data from the artifact. "If we can decode it, maybe we can learn something. Maybe we can prevent this from happening again." Jax looked up sharply. "You think we should mess with that thing again? After what it did?" "We don't have a choice," Mara interjected. "If there's even a chance we can use this knowledge to protect humanity, we owe it to Elira and everyone else to try." As the shuttle limped back toward Earth, Earth itself began preparing for what came next. News of the Reaper's destruction spread quickly, sparking both relief and mourning. Monuments were planned for the fallen soldiers and scavengers alike, especially Captain Voss. But humanity wasn't just celebrating, it was learning. Scientists worked tirelessly to analyze the data transmitted by Elira's team. The alien artifact's secrets slowly unraveled, revealing groundbreaking advancements in energy manipulation, quantum physics, and artificial intelligence. These discoveries would change humanity forever. But they also came with warnings. "This power is incredible," one scientist admitted during a briefing. "But it's dangerous. If misused, it could destroy us just like the Reaper nearly did." Commander Sarah nodded grimly. "Then we make sure it's not misused. We build safeguards. We adapt. That's what humans do." Days turned into weeks, and humanity rebuilt. Cities repaired damaged infrastructure. Factories churned out new ships, and academies trained fresh recruits. The scars of battle remained visible, but so did the resilience of a species determined to survive. On Earth, a memorial service honored Captain Elira Voss and her crew. Thousands gathered, holding candles under a starlit sky. A holographic projection of Elira appeared above the crowd, accompanied by her final message: "Humanity doesn't give up." Tears flowed freely as people remembered not just the loss, but the courage it took to fight back. In orbit, General Kale addressed the fleet. "Today, we mourn our dead. But tomorrow, we rise stronger. Humanity has faced extinction before, and we will face it again. Each time, we prove that no matter how dark the night, dawn always comes." As the galaxy moved forward, whispers of new threats lingered. Strange signals hinted at other dangers lurking beyond explored space. But humanity now carried something more than fear. They carried hope. And they knew, no matter what came next, they would never stop fighting. The destruction of the Reaper marked a turning point for humanity. The galaxy, once filled with fear and uncertainty, now buzzed with determination. The data recovered from Elira Voss's final transmission became the foundation for a new era, a time when humanity didn't just survive but thrived. Scientists worked day and night to decode the secrets of the alien artifact. What they discovered was nothing short of revolutionary. The artifact held the key to technologies far beyond anything humanity had imagined. Faster than light travel, near limitless energy sources, and advanced AI systems capable of learning and adapting at incredible speeds. These breakthroughs transformed every aspect of life on Earth and its colonies. Cities grew taller, cleaner, and more efficient. Space travel became faster and safer, allowing humans to explore farther than ever before. Colonies on distant planets flourished as resources flowed freely between worlds. Medicine advanced to the point where diseases that once plagued humanity were eradicated entirely. But progress came with responsibility. The lessons learned from the Reaper weren't forgotten. Governments established strict regulations to ensure such power wouldn't fall into the wrong hands or be used recklessly. Monuments were built not only to honor the fallen but also to remind future generations of the cost of hubris. One such monument stood in the heart of Earth's capital city. It was a towering statue of Captain Elira Voss, her face calm yet resolute. Beneath it, engraved in stone, were her final words: "Humanity doesn't give up." Visitors often paused there, reflecting on the sacrifices made to secure their future. Tycho, the youngest member of Elira's crew, found himself standing before the statue one evening. He had changed since those harrowing days aboard the Reaper. Once a wide-eyed dreamer, he was now a respected engineer, helping design ships based on the artifact's technology. "She'd be proud," said Ren, joining him. His voice was softer now, less frantic than it had been during their ordeal. Tycho nodded. "Do you think she knew how much of a difference she'd make?" "I don't know," Ren admitted, "but I think she did what she thought was right. That's all any of us can do." Elsewhere, Jax and Mara continued their work as scavengers, though their missions were different now. They led teams tasked with exploring uncharted regions of space, searching for signs of other threats or allies. Their bond had grown stronger through shared loss, and they carried Elira's memory with them wherever they went. Back on Earth, General Kale retired from active duty, passing leadership to Commander Sarah. She proved herself a capable successor, guiding humanity with wisdom and strength. Under her command, Earth's fleet expanded, becoming a symbol of unity rather than war. Yet whispers of danger still lingered. Strange signals hinted at civilizations beyond the stars, some curious, others hostile. But humanity faced these possibilities not with fear, but with resolve. "We've come too far to turn back now," Sarah declared during a speech to the fleet. "We've faced extinction, betrayal, and despair. And each time, we've risen stronger. Whatever comes next, we'll meet it together." Her words echoed across the galaxy, inspiring millions. Humanity had evolved, not just technologically, but spiritually. They understood now that survival wasn't enough. They had to adapt, learn, and grow. In deep space, a small probe launched by Elira's team years earlier finally reached its destination, an unexplored star system. Its cameras captured images of vibrant planets and swirling nebulae, sending them back to Earth. Among the data was a faint signal, repeating endlessly, "Life persists. Adaptation endures." Though no one could decipher its origin, the message resonated deeply. It reminded humanity of their journey, their struggles, triumphs, and endless capacity to overcome. And so, under the watchful eyes of the stars, humanity pressed onward. They carried the legacy of those who had sacrificed everything, not out of obligation, but out of hope. Hope that no matter how vast the universe or how great the challenge, humanity would always find a way to prevail. Because humanity doesn't give up.